It is day 7 of me decluttering 1,000 items from my home in a 30-day period. Now, whilst this is day 7 of me decluttering, it's actually day 12 of the 30 days. So I have had several days where I haven't been able to declutter because I was at my mum's house, because I've had things on with the kids, and because I've had a really hectic couple of days of work. So I was actually, on the day that I was editing this video, not the day I'm doing the voiceover, the day I was editing the video, I was on a panel discussion talking about flooding in relation to my job as a lawyer, and that all went really well, but that was a really early start to do that. And then I was in Parliament at the end of the day, and then this day that I'm recording the voiceover, I am heading into London later, and I have a work event with clients and colleagues, so it's going to be a really, really late day. So I'm not going to be able to do any more decluttering today as well. So that means I'm actually getting a teensy bit behind. I was ahead and I really wanted to get ahead. I'm now a little bit behind, but I feel confident that I can catch up. So I'll let you know at the end of the video how many items I managed to declutter and what my total is so far. So I am decluttering pantry items today, food items, that's what I'm concentrating on in the kitchen. And I am going to be, instead of doing a voiceover telling you all about what I'm decluttering, I am going to be answering your questions. I put a post up on my community page recently asking if you had any questions for me, and you came up with some great ones. So we'll see how many we can get through in this video. If you didn't see that post, or you have any additional questions that you want to ask me, just drop them in the comments and I will answer them in the next video. So first up, we have questions about kids, family, pregnancy, and all that. So I was asked, did we always want 3 kids? And the answer to that is yes. I really wanted 3 kids. My husband really wanted 3 kids. We are both from families of 3 children, and I think that really influenced us. We loved the dynamic, like growing up with 2 siblings. So I have an older brother and a younger sister, but saying that, we're all really, really close together in age. There's 2 years between my brother and I, and there is just over a year between my sister and I. For my husband, he is the eldest, and then he has a brother who's a couple of years younger than him, and he has a sister who is 10 years younger than him. So she's the oops baby that everyone is so grateful for. We've all, we all have those families, don't we, with the oops baby that we weren't expecting, but we can't imagine life without, and that is absolutely Auntie Anna. She's amazing. So yeah, we grew up wanting that, and we knew we wanted that when we got together. However, we nearly did not have our third. So we had, another question I had was about age gaps. So I was 34 when I had my eldest, who is now 7, and my husband is 6 years older than me, so he was 40, or he might have been just 41 actually. Yeah, he was just, yeah, of course, he turned 41 the day before my son was born. I was in labour on his 41st birthday. So we are a little bit older. Like at the time, I did not feel older. 34 certainly didn't feel old. But then if you want 3 children, you kind of get on with it, So being that we didn't meet until I was like in my 30s, and we weren't together for like too long before having children. Like we were together for about a year before moving in, and then we got engaged, we got married, had children like in reasonably, like not super quick, but reasonably like soon, because we knew we were a bit older and we wanted to have 3 children. So we had our eldest, and then when he turned 1, we started trying for our second, fell pregnant really easily with our second. So there was 22 months between the boys, and we found that age gap was pretty hard when they were little. Like when you have a toddler and a baby, and add to the fact that we had our second in we had our second in the start of the first lockdown of COVID, and when he was 6 weeks old, we started an extension on our house that had been planned for a whole year. We'd booked the builders a whole year before it started, so we really wanted to get on with it. But then it was a really intense time. Our second baby did not sleep. He didn't sleep until he was 3 actually, but he has slept better since then, so thankfully, but he did not sleep, and that was really hard. Like when you add in the stress of COVID, stressful jobs, working from home. I started a new job when I went back to work after my second. It was, and we weren't getting any sleep. any sleep at all. It was a really, really tough time. And sleep deprivation, it does horrible things to you. And my husband was not particularly keen on trying for a third. And I think I had just had in my head, like, we wanted 3, we're going to have 3. And I thought, I'll make it my mission to convince him to have a third. And initially I started to try to convince him to have a third. And then I suddenly just clicked the other way and thought, we are a team, we're a family. I don't want any resentment when it comes to having children. I don't want any feelings of regret. And we're either all in this together or we're all out. I won't convince him. He has to want it. We both have to want it equally. And then I won't also ever hold it against him if we don't have a third child. It has to be a decision which is right for our family. So having come to that conclusion, I said, you know what, I think maybe you're right. This is a really hard period of life. We're so blessed to have 2 children. Either we want it and we want it together, or we don't and we're a team. And so that's that. And we had baby stuff in the loft. So I was like, right, let's get the stuff out of the loft. Let's start decluttering. That was feeling, had been feeling overwhelmed with stuff since having my first, basically. And I was like, let's start getting rid of the baby things. And I think the actual reality of, not having a third, getting rid of the baby things, hit my husband hard. And he was like, oh, hang on a minute. Let's just hold on. Let's not be too hasty. And let's just kind of wait and see. And so we waited, and I got pregnant. And we had a third, and we had our little girl, and she's absolutely the missing piece of the puzzle. And we were clearly destined to have 3. It's a wonderful dynamic. There is 2.5 years then between our second and our third. So when she arrived, my middle child still wasn't sleeping, but thankfully it wasn't too long before he started sleeping. And by that point, she wasn't sleeping. So we continued to get no sleep. We are finally in a position now. She will be 3 in October, where she's starting to sleep a little bit more regularly through the night. So yeah, we're starting to get the occasional decent night's sleep, which is nice, isn't it? And we will be having no more babies. My husband has had the snip. We've made that decision, but there's always a part of me that wonders what life might have been like with 4 children. But we don't have the space, we don't have the energy, we don't have the money. There are so many reasons why it would not be a good idea. And also, I mostly worry with having more children that the time it takes away from existing children. So I found that baby season, when you have a baby, is so intense. The first couple of years are so intense. And I'm really liking the idea of the fact that we're getting to a stage in life where we can do more as a family. And we can all kind of spend that time together. And there isn't, a baby requiring way more time. So I'm loving this phase of life, loving the fact that we had 3. And the age gaps, whilst they are intense when children are young, are wonderful as children get older. And the dynamic between the kids is fantastic. So it works for us. It works for us in terms of our age, because now I am 41, I'll be 42 next month. And, I feel like that, the baby period is done, and we can start to kind of move forward with all of the fun activities, which is super awesome. In terms of actually getting pregnant, we felt we had a struggle. So it took us about a year to fall pregnant with our first, and we had just got to the point where our doctors had said, we'll start running some tests on you guys, and fertility tests. And I said I didn't want to go down that road just yet. I needed a bit of time to wrap my head around it when we fell pregnant. So that was awesome. However, it did not go well. That pregnancy was rough from the start. I knew something was wrong. I had some odd pains, had early investigations. I had a scan actually at 6 weeks pregnant, which found that things were not as they should be. Initially, they thought it was an ectopic pregnancy, but it turned out to be just a very slow developing pregnancy. And it was a really traumatic time because it was weeks of the baby was growing, but the baby wasn't growing fast enough, and continual hope, but knowing something was not right. And it was just a really weird time, but we really pulled together, my husband and I. We would go on long walks in the evenings, talking about what was going on, really we were very good at communicating at that time, which really helped. But then I did eventually have a miscarriage, and it was without doubt the saddest time of my life, and my husband still says he's never seen anyone cry as hard as I cried then, and I can still feel the pain of it now. We have a little memorial in our garden for the baby that we lost. We don't know if it was a girl or a boy, but we have two angels, a girl and boy angel, sit at the bottom of our tree and remind us constantly of that loss, because I know for some people a miscarriage isn't a big deal and everyone is very different. For us, it was a life-changing experience in terms of the loss that we felt. So that was our start to becoming parents. However, you know, we were really lucky to fall pregnant then, very quickly after the miscarriage with my first, very quickly then with second and third babies. And in terms of pregnancy, I mostly just really enjoyed pregnancy, and until the end, everyone hates the end, right? But the end, you're like, oh my God, when will this be over? Get this baby out of me. My first birth, so I was asked about my births. My first birth was a hospital birth. It was a natural delivery, but it was nearly not. It was a bit tricky. So Eddie, my eldest, was back to back, and he had got his arm like wrapped around his neck and his elbow kind of sticking out. So it was a tricky delivery, and we got to the point where they were starting to talk about knocking me out and whipping him out with me unconscious. So I was like, right, that's it. And they were like, literally like, either this baby is delivered now or we'll have to knock you out, because he was starting to struggle a little bit. And I've never pushed so hard in my life. I did have a reasonably nasty tear from that, but I was glad ultimately that he was born naturally. I was conscious for it, and he was, relatively speaking, a swift birth in that my active labour was counted as 6 hours. And that should have given us an indication of what was to come for our other babies. But I had very, very quick labours with my second and third. And I actually had home births for my second and third babies. And I have a home birth video. I have a couple of home birth videos. It's slightly different. One's more chatty than the other. And I have those on this channel. And I will, I'll try to link them in the end of this video anyway, so that you can easily find them. So I have the home birth videos. And so for my second, the home birth decision was made purely because we were in COVID lockdown times, and they had changed all the rules around labouring women. You couldn't have your partner in hospital until you were in established labour, and to prove established labour, you had to consent to an internal examination, and that is the one thing I really, really, really hated with my first labour. Several internal examinations. I swear they were more painful than actual birth. So I really didn't want that. And I felt like I was being pushed into a position where I was having to agree to things I didn't want to agree to. So I thought, on that basis, you know what, I'm gonna have a home birth. They were still allowing home births in my area. It was teetering on the edge of getting rid of them, but they were still allowing home births, which meant he could be around, my toddler could be around. My mum came from Norfolk to help out. She was permitted, because of me being, about to go into labour, she was permitted to come and stay with us for a few days, and it was awesome. Like, I'm so glad that COVID happened in a weird way for that reason, because I would never have thought about home birth had it not been for COVID. And I loved that experience, like genuinely, hand on heart, enjoyed it. It was really awesome, and I think the speed at which that he arrived was quite a shock. He was 2 hours 45 from my first contraction to when he was delivered, and it was an interesting experience. So because we were expecting it to be a little bit longer than that, we hadn't called the midwives at we had called them at the start, but we told them how far apart my contractions were. It was all fine. Anyway, we ended up having to call the paramedics, and they arrived to find me, literally about to give birth, called the midwives and said, you need to get here right now. Like, she's going to give birth very, very soon. And they were asking me to get on the bed. I was at the end of my bed, on the floor, holding on to the end of my bed. And I was absolutely not, I can't move from here. So I don't think I put it quite that well, that way. I was a bit more forceful, but I was absolutely not moving from this position, because the paramedics were, we don't deliver babies every day, so it'd be really helpful for us if you were on the bed on your back. That was not happening. And the midwife arrived literally as my son's head was crowning. I could see the bottom of their blue coloured trousers, and I did not see their face until after I'd given birth. They just wedged themselves in behind me, delivered the baby, and that was it. And the paramedics you know, they hung around for the birth because they were there. So we're like, well, we might as well stay, make sure everything's all right and you don't need to transfer to hospital. And which it was absolutely fine. And I sat in bed and had a pizza delivery after birth, which was really good fun with my mum and my husband. My toddler was having a nap. And it was just the nicest experience that I've had. And then that spurred me on to have a second home birth with my little girl. Again, it was swift. She was 3 hours from when waters broke with her to start with. And so water breaking to when she was delivered, 3 hours in my living room with my sister, sat in the armchair, chatting away to the midwives, and it was a really, really lovely experience. So if you're thinking about birth and how you might give birth, I can highly recommend a home birth. So we're coming to the end of the declutter now, and I haven't even got around to all of the other questions. I have questions on summer activities for the kids, which I've got loads to say about, work questions, decluttering questions, home renovation questions. I don't know if I've got any time to shoehorn in any more. No, I haven't. Here we go. Look, here's everything I decluttered. 50 items, exactly 50 items, a bit random mix, but I wanted to add a few more things that I thought about. That brings my total so far to 321 items. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.